I'm back with another review of The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventurer in Another World. And I think so far this might be my favorite one because it made me laugh quite a few times, which I wholeheartedly like. I love it when anime makes me laugh. It makes it more enjoyable and it makes it more memorable. Now, before I begin, why not hit like, subscribe, and leave me a comment on what you think about this episode so far, and let's discuss. So, starting off with the episode, it has Red and Yidra coming home, beat from the previous episode, and they just come home, and Red is now moving into the house, and the butler doesn't like this whatsoever. He thinks that he is going to do lustful things, and he is going to try to seduce Yidra all the time. It's not going to work, but I just found it funny because as they're kind of talking, the butler's saying like, oh, I see you as a granddaughter, but you have a voluptuous body. I said that word wrong, but because she's like, no, he doesn't think like that, and then she kind of jumps back to a little bit where in the cave he was like, you know, she's an inherent beauty, and she's like, oh yeah, actually maybe he might have those lustful thoughts. And the butler just runs to him with a giant pair of scissors and is basically trying to cut his genitals off so that he doesn't want to kind of fuck her. And at first, I generally thought this was kind of funny, but then I was just like, why? Why does the old man have to do that? It's kind of one of those things of, if you cut them off, he can't use them. And I don't know, now thinking about it, I generally didn't like that part. And it just felt one of those things of, if we cut that off, you're never going to use it. You're never going to have those thoughts whatsoever. So I was just like, So I think that's the only downside to this entire episode so far. So we have two brand new characters, which I mentioned in my previous review, which is Taltina and Logi, which she is a princess and he is a knight. And it has that sort of trope. It annoys me after a while because it's one of those things where, you know, if he says something wrong, he's all in his face like, how dare you turn around and say this about my princess? I'm going to cut you down so you never say it again. And sometimes it does work. It does, believe me. But sometimes it can be very overbearing when it's like, oh, you glanced in her way. I will not forgive you. You shall be cut down, you cur. And then slash, slash, slash. And it feels like the guard just wants to kill everybody, just like wipe them all out because they may hurt her looking at a certain way. And I feel like over time they'll probably all warm up to each other, but for now it's gonna be a bit of a ride. I said this was my favorite episode, and so far I'm just like, One of the reasons why they've come to the house is that they have the magical manor seed. And they explain what this does. It basically amplifies the desire of what one person wants. So technically, if you wanted a lot of gold coins, you would gain the power straight away to turn things into gold coins. And the more that the mana builds up and up and up, the more that you turn into a monster. And we saw that earlier where the I think it was the old man at least, wanted to turn around and protect his treasure, thus therefore turning into a monster that would protect his treasure. There are also other examples of if you want to protect something, then a barrier would go up, and this becomes one of the main things. So they finish explaining, Taltina turns around and asks for help, and they all agree. And this gives Yidra a way in to help out the royals as well as defeat, I'm guessing, the Spectre. Now, because they don't really know where the mana seed is coming from, they kind of think that the Royal Spectre is the one who is kind of giving them these powers, giving them out to the wealthy, or I'm going to guess it's going to be pretty much anyone altogether later on, but obviously isn't telling anyone. Why would I give away my most impressive thing right now, where effectively I can hide in the shadows and say, no, this is definitely not me. It's a plan that we know that this is going to be the main bad guy, and then we'll probably find out much later on that someone is controlling them, and then it kind of carries on that way. So there's tons of little things going on that kind of are slowly building the blocks for this much later on, which I'm all here for. Red jumps in and says that he's going to help. He wants to help. This is when Logi steps in and is like, no, how dare you? No one is going to help Taltina, get away. And it does kind of irritate me because earlier they saw Yidra and Red actually on the floor. It's getting to the point where people are saying, no, stop it. But because of all of that hijinks earlier, Lo has got it in his head that, Red is not the best, and I feel it's more jealousy because he doesn't want Red to be there. He wants to be the person in Taltina's eyes that is the hero. No other man is allowed near her to help her to do anything, because then it makes him look weak. And I hated this part, mainly because these sorts of tropes later on don't really work well whatsoever, and it becomes irritating as hell. So yeah, that's the main thing. But they jump into a fight, and I thought that they were going to fight in the house, but it turns out to be outside, and it was fine. I like this. I like this quite a bit. As soon as Red transforms, you've got Logi going like, what the hell? And Taltina's like, oh my god, this is amazing. And you get some little bits of banter all the way through, and it gets to the point where both Red and Lo start fighting each other. They go at it, and then Red's like, nah, I need to kind of like majorly beat this completely. And you know, he summons the beast out of nowhere, and you have Ydra as well as Taltina actually in the cockpit, and it's like, how did you get here? They find out that the bonds of like friendship and stuff like that, or the bonds between them, is kind of loosely formed. As soon as you make a bond, rather than saying hello or yes, I help you, or yeah, I believe in that, then a bond is formed. Now, Lo doesn't like this whatsoever, and he decides, do you know what, I'm going to attack you, and Red can't actually hit him in the giant robo. The big thing, trying to smack down a smaller person isn't going to work really well. But then just out of nowhere, he summons the sword, that's Red, and just wafts him away. I generally really wanted Red to actually make contact with the sword, so it actually sends him far away, and you just see that ding type thing, and it's like miles away he's been hit. But no, it's the wind, because of the bet that they made at the very beginning of the fight. If Lo won, then basically Red disappears, and and they never see him again, which is a bit shit because he lives in the house, and that would be a really horrible thing to do. But if Red wins, then obviously Lo will accept him into the party. Fair dues, like that is the main thing for that one. Lo joins the party, and then they go to another town. But before they leave for this other town, the butler says, Master Red, I hope you are able to remember what I said, type of thing. And then it's literally the whole thing of, if you try it with Ydra, then I'm going to cut your balls and penis off, and you'll never use them again. And you see Red go, oh no, because literally every single guy would do that if you were in the same sort of situation. So they travel to this town, which they say like never sleeps. It's always busy 24/7 all the time. And I thought, okay, this is going to be like a fancy night city here. There's going to be kind of lights everywhere. There's going to be people hustle and bustle everywhere. It's effectively like, I would say, New York or something like that. But it's completely and utterly deserted. There's nothing about. The main bad guy for this particular like episode doesn't want the town to be, I'm guessing, through nightlife. It wants to be prim and proper, like, you know, very quiet, not very loud. And this is, I think, like, they've got power privilege. They've had this barrier around, and like no one's around. Like, you can sense everything. If you say anything bad against the Lord, which obviously is the main bad guy, then like these golems, these monsters come out of nowhere and start attacking. And I was like, man, that's a really shitty town. I can imagine everyone just kind of moving out, and the entire town being completely desolate, like nothing there whatsoever. But because of this, like, they have a conversation. They start, you can't do this. It's not very fair. The evil Lord doesn't like this, and a massive fight breaks out between Red and these two golem things. One thing I also didn't like is the fact that Lo, the knight, is meant to kind of help, and Taltina's like, hey, could you go help? You know, Lo's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm enjoying seeing his ass get kicked. And I do hope that this does change, because I don't want to sit through an entire anime or an entire series where one character absolutely hates all males because they may take the interest of Taltina or something, and it would really kind of ruin it in my eyes. But when the episode kind of ends, Red is being beaten. The monsters are literally hitting him in the back. They're hitting all his weak spots. It's effectively the power. And yeah, the episode ends there. Red absolutely gets destroyed, and he demorphs, and you see his armor, his ranger form just shatter. And everyone's like, so I'm kind of hoping now Taltina will have a go at the knight in the next episode and say, how dare you go against my word? He is now hurt. And Lo's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I just hope that happens. Then we get the outro, and yeah, I generally actually really like this episode. It was funny at times. It had certain things that made me want to keep watching. And I will say that at the end where the giant robo is, I thought that was going to be the end of the episode. It felt like it was the end right there, but it was like kind of near the beginning-ish. And it's fun. Like, I generally did enjoy this all the time. But yeah, like, I'm actually really excited for this. There is so much Sentai stuff coming out at the moment that this entire whole anime really kind of put the last thing today on the icing on the cake. I enjoyed this episode. The humor was great. There was things that I didn't like now kind of thinking back to it, but it's made me want to watch the next episode because it's left it on a cliffhanger. I know that they're going to beat it, but I want to know if they can. I want to know if they're all going to start working together. It's mainly Lo that needs to work. But yeah, effectively, I generally kind of like this. Oh, one thing is, well, now because I'm calling him Lo doesn't like the fact that Red is calling Teltina by her first name. And he's like, nah, I hate this whatsoever. You should call her by her full name. And he's like, nah, she's calling me Red. And she's like, yeah, Mr. Red and stuff like that. And Lo absolutely hates it. He's like, oh, she never gives me a nickname. And I can just see the jealousy. So I'm really, really hoping that they sort that out. But yeah, it's a fantastic episode. It's a great episode. It's worth definitely watching. This is a fantastic anime so far. But my main question to you is, what do you think about it so far? Are you liking it? Are you not? Are you kind of going like, oh, I'll wait till it's near the end to kind of watch it? Let me know down below in the comments and let's discuss this. And while you're down there, hit the like button, hit subscribe, as well as check out the Patreon and the channel memberships. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat. Your help goes a long way to help support the channel, and if you want to help support the channel, the links to my Patreon and channel memberships are listed below in the description.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。